Welcome back! My name's Jack, the snack that smiles back. If you're here, you're joining me to find out who is the a-holes today. But enough dibbler-dabbler, let's get started on the stories. This story by AmiTheA1231. Am I the a-hole for asking my fiancée to turn down her dream career? My fiancée, female 29, and I, male 32, have been together for 5 years, and are planning to be married once we are fully settled down. We both finished school not too long ago. I am an MD/PhD, and she has her PhD in political science. We currently live in a large city, but she recently received a job offer in a small town a few hours away from us. It's her dream job, and unfortunately, it doesn't exist in large cities. There is a hospital in the town with positions in my specialty, so I would still be able to practice medicine. However, the issue is that there is no university in the area. This would essentially mean that I will not be able to conduct meaningful research, profess, or open my own research laboratory as I had planned, essentially rendering the PhD portion of my education moot. Research and teaching are also a huge part of my life, hence why I've put so much of my life into it, and so I can't bring myself to take myself off that course after finally finishing all of the training. All of that said, my fiancée has also worked extremely hard to obtain her degree, and while she could obtain many jobs in the city we live in, it wouldn't be her dream job. So I struggle with how it's fair for me to ask her to turn her dream job down for me when I'm not willing to do the same for her. Am I the a-hole? Edit, sorry, I phrased this poorly. What I meant was, would I be the a-hole if I didn't relocate with her? I won't push her to turn down her career, but since we can't live 4 hours apart for the rest of our lives, me not going with her would obviously mean the end of our relationship. So this is essentially the same as asking her to turn it down. Edit 2, my fiancée has also expressed that she would need my financial support to do this, as she would be working at a non-profit. So she is essentially asking me to do the same for her. So her dream job doesn't actually get her an income? I mean, sure, it can be a dream job, but that ain't a dream career. Was she going to be relying on your financial stability to just live off of? It's a tricky predicament, but at least on your end of things, you'd actually have some money behind you. Yatta, I'm afraid. You're basically always going to be the a-hole if you ask someone to do something for you that you wouldn't do for them. No a-holes here because of your edit. Of course, you'd be an a-hole for forcing her or even suggestively asking her to turn down her dream job, but that's not what you're considering. You wouldn't be an a-hole for not turning down yours either. Neither of you have to turn down your jobs, but someone is probably going to have to choose that if you stay together. As it stands, you guys just have to communicate and decide what you want. There are 4 options as I see it. 1. You turn down your dream career. 2. She turns down her dream career. 3. You both keep them and try to work out a commute. Or 4. You both keep them and split up. Sounds like you two have some talking and heavy decisions to make. Keep in mind, there is likely going to be some resentment by whoever decides to cave. Some relationships don't survive that anyway. That's really it, it's just who is willing to be a bit more miserable about their life than the other. Besides, the way I think of it, if that person is truly special and meant to be for you, or vice versa, you guys will make a way to meet up again someday when you're in a bit more of a comfortable position where you guys can be seeing each other. It sounds like you both are a bit young. I personally wouldn't be jumping the gun and tying the knot with someone without establishing my career first. You might need to split up if you can't come to a compromise, but it seems to me that you are the person with the more flexible job, and you might consider moving for her because of that. What would you suggest she do if she stayed in the city with you? I'm not sure what you mean by my job being more flexible. There are many careers for a PhD in political science. This is just the one she wants most. Likewise, while I am able to practice medicine, I would not be able to conduct research, which is what drew me to medicine in the first place. Oh, I read it as you have multiple dream jobs and she has just the one. I guess I don't really understand why you think she would move for you when you won't move for her. Not every dream job pays well. Take teaching, some social worker jobs, etc. He mentions it's a non-profit organization, so it probably has a low salary or low for the area they live in. Hey, why was I downvoted? It's fact that not every job pays well. Her pay may not be reflective to the call in the area she'd work and live. No a-holes here. It's wrong for you both to tone down your work expectations for your significant other. It would only put a strain on your relationship. It seems to me this is one of those relationships that's kind of met its end for the benefit of them both. Like, sorry you have to cut ties this way, but honestly, this is the best way you guys could have your relationship end. Rather it be forced for the betterment of your life aspirations and career expectations than something far more morbid like one of you losing interest or becoming unfaithful. At least this way, you're both a-holes and both not. And besides, if you find out very quickly that your dream job isn't exactly what you wanted and you end up crawling back to your ex, at least there isn't too much bad blood. This story by Miss Tengu. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my autistic brother-in-law? I, 35 female with epilepsy, basically seizure disorder, and my significant other, 32 male, high-functioning autistic, have been together for almost 16 years. For 10 of those years, we have been guilt-tripped and generally manipulated by mother-in-law into taking in and caring for brother-in-law 1, 18 at the time, so she could run off with brother-in-law 2, 8 at the time, and live with her now husband. She claimed that there would be no room for brother-in-law 1, which we have found out to be utter BS. Brother-in-law is a mid-functioning autistic who can do everyday things such as going to the store and getting dressed, but just needs assistance with general life management, I guess. He can be a nice person, but the line between his autism and learned behavior is very difficult to discern, so we don't know if it is his autism or him just being a jerk at times. When he goes to stay with mother-in-law, his bad behavior seems to be encouraged under the excuse of he can't help it because he has autism. She uses this excuse all the time when it is just him being lazy, rude, or generally disrespectful. Recently, after a very traumatic conception and delivery, we now have our little rainbow baby. I'll cut out a lot of drama that happened with mother-in-law after I came out of the hospital because it will make me go over the word count. Plus, I think it is for another subreddit. Fast forward to a few weeks after our health visitor coming and checking how we and Dad are doing. She, our family liaison officer, and my neurologist perform a risk assessment on my well-being and the stability of my epilepsy. All three highly recommended that I try to cut down as much stress as possible, which included having brother-in-law 1 moving out. We spoke to brother-in-law 1 and he seemed more than happy that he would be moving out and getting assisted living. We also explained the process and he was fine with it. When we told mother-in-law about it, she lost her stuff. She yelled abuse at us and tried to guilt-trip us into changing our minds. Once again, I won't go into the detail of the drama that happened because it would take up too much of the word count, but let's just say she didn't like her son standing up for his new family and claimed he was betraying his brother and abandoning his actual family. Oh, what a desperate ploy! After a lot of back and forth, she tried to stir the pot by lying to other family members and starting publicly attacking me on Facebook. She was also making status about how her autistic baby was being kicked out and abandoned by us, and how her eldest thought that family doesn't matter anymore. My mum and all of my friends say we aren't a-holes, and say that 10 years of caring for someone who shouldn't even be our responsibility is more than enough. However, significant other's family and his mother's friends say we are the a-holes for making his brother homeless, and that if we couldn't deal with a baby on top of caring for his brother, then we shouldn't even had our DD in the first place. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole for kicking out my autistic brother-in-law? Jeez, kicking out's like such a harsh term for what it actually was. If anything, you just requested him to leave. Wow, so not the a-hole. Having a baby is extremely stressful, and you definitely don't need any additional stress, especially when you have epilepsy. You've given up 10 years of your life to care for brother-in-law 1. Tell your mother-in-law that she shouldn't have had brother-in-law 1 if she couldn't care for him. At the end of the day, he's her son and her responsibility. Congratulations on the bubba. Nata, is your brother-in-law didn't even care that he was moving out, so why did your mother-in-law care? Seems like a lot wanting to control you guys. And she's an a-hole because she knows that you and your significant other already, probably, have a hard time with day-to-day life as your significant other is autistic and you're epileptic. And now you have a baby who needs to be taken care of, not the a-hole. I love that your significant other's friends and family accuse you guys of being a-holes and that if you can't take care of a baby and an autistic brother-in-law, you shouldn't have the baby in the first place. Like, what, do they all have autistic brothers and brother-in-laws that they take care of themselves on top of their kids? I didn't realize it was such a common family dynamic. If family is so important and brother-in-law one deserves to be taken care of by family and putting a new child above him is selfish, why did mother-in-law ever jettison him in the first place, and why isn't she taking him in now? My guess is that deep down she feels guilty and irresponsible for not continuing to be his primary caregiver as his mother, and that you two, building a nuclear family and needing space for your safety, comfort, and happiness, forces her to come to terms with her actions, past and current. After all, nothing's stopping her from taking brother-in-law one if she's so concerned about him being with family. She just wants the credit for keeping him in the family without doing any of the work or dealing with the day-to-day stress. Yeah, I reckon this nails it on the head. She's likely too ashamed from her past of actually ditching the kid. And it could be possible that he doesn't actually want to really be with her anyway. In fact, that could be a playing factor. Maybe the reason the mother-in-law did abandon him, so to speak, was because he didn't want to actually be with her as a family. Though, of course, I'm sure they would have pointed this out in the story if the brother-in-law did feel this way. It would certainly assist in making the mother-in-law come across as less of a complete a-hole.
Hello, I'm a teapot, and I think you should subscribe or like the video, because you clearly are enjoying it if you've gotten this far in and are starting to see teapots talk. Honestly, I think you need to see a doctor about this, but before you do that, like and subscribe. Cheerio.
This story by Autistic user's name. Am I the a-hole for wanting to start a family? My husband and I had discussed the prospect of kids before we got married, and he agreed with me at the time that he would want kids eventually. We have been married a little over 6 years now, and he's saying to me that he actually doesn't want to have children. Ever. He knows it's something that was or is a big deal for me, and frankly, would have been a deal breaker had he said then and there 6 years ago that he knew he wouldn't want kids. Don't get me wrong, he wasn't trying to deceive me in any way, but he has realized it's something he doesn't want. I feel blindsided by this. Now, it's a short post and gives very little explanation. So my first question is, what exactly makes you an a-hole here? Do you think you're an a-hole for feeling upset about him saying this? Honestly, I believe you're never an a-hole for how you feel about something. It's how you act upon those feelings that make you an a-hole. Honestly, I'm glad this is the post rather than am I the a-hole for putting holes in my husband's condoms? That's when you'd be making a problem. Look, I do agree that it sucks that he doesn't want to have kids anymore, but also understand that he is free to make this choice. It's just basic consent and respect after all. Just because someone says they want something or into something, and the moment the opportunity comes up to experience or get that thing and they suddenly don't want it, you don't get to just force it upon them because, oh, well, you said it earlier. After all, attempting otherwise is how you get charged with sexual assault. It is time to cut your losses and walk away. He is not going to start wanting children. And you might start to resent him, if you never have them. And that does beg the question, what is more important to you in this relationship? Having children? Or having him? You can ask for both, but you've also got to accept the possibility that you may not be allowed to. At least, not right now. No a-holes here. It's understandable that you'd feel blindsided, but as you say, you don't think he was being deceptive, and you don't seem to have flipped your stuff about it, then there's nothing really to judge. People's priorities change. There's nothing inherently a-hole about it. Sure, but even so, now he gets upset that I bring it up, but it's an impasse we have to overcome seeing as we both want to make it work. I mean, I can see both sides of it. It sounds like it's a complicated situation for both of you. I can see your wanting to talk about it, and I can see his annoyance with it because it could feel to him that you're trying to pressure him into it. If you're both wanting to make things work, someone is going to have to compromise, and that's going to make one of you unhappy for a long time. There's still not enough info to really judge, and y'all should consider counseling. Yeah, fair point. I can see both sides too, but though I probably have more reason to be mad at him, he's mad at me. At the moment in our country, we're in lockdown, so we can't really go to couples counseling, but that's definitely on the books. Well, let's ponder on the compromise option. What exactly is motivating you to want kids, and what exactly is motivating him to want to avoid kids? If he's fearful of the extra costs and responsibility, while you want that compassion and joy of raising someone, maybe start with a pet. I know it's very far from the actual thing, but look, it may be a good stepping stone for you guys to realize and work on the idea of being a couple with something to have responsibility taken care of. Of course, it is possible he'll immediately say no, simply because he can tell you're doing this purely to motivate him into changing his mind. I think the best foot forward here is if you are willing to work with him here, you've got to be willing to perceive the possibility that you may not win. And look, if that does be the case, I think you should be free to leave him without any pity or worry on yourself, because unlike him, at least you have been making efforts to work this out together. Again, it comes down to that question. Will you be more fulfilled having kids or your partner in a relationship? My dad didn't want children either, but my mom did, so they had my sister and I. That deep feeling of being unwanted doesn't go away. Even now, 30 years later. You can't hide indifference. Don't frick over your future kids by having them with someone who needs to be persuaded into it. This is the reason why I wouldn't force anyone into it. I'm sorry for your pain, but I'm thankful for your perspective. Thank you. I'm glad my 34 years of anger issues at least is useful to someone. Also, you want someone who gets excited with you for your joint child, not someone who gets excited for you. Overall, it's a bit of a tricky issue, so what do you think? Should she just straight up tolerate his opinions? Maybe just go ahead and ditch him? Or die on the hill and punch holes in the condoms? That does us for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you're looking at my face right now, that means you liked this video. So all I appreciate is if you would like the video back. Because if you like it, then I'll like you for liking the video, and then I can make more stuff for you to like that you can like. And it'll be just a constant cycle of never-ending pain and suffering. So don't do it alone. Suffer with me. I don't know where I was going with that. If you haven't subscribed but you want to see some more content, then please, what are you waiting for? Click that notification bell so you're always updated on the latest content. And hey, why not check out some other videos while you're here? But anyway, that does me for today. Thank you again for watching. You're an amazing person. I love rambling at you. And I look forward to you staring at me beyond the abyss again soon. I can't close well. Don't at me, okay? My name's been Jack. Bye-bye. You're amazing. See ya.